Live in high definition from the area's most experienced news team. This is NBC 29 HD News at 11.
A barrage of bullets in Baton Rouge, Louisiana leaves 3 police officers dead in what the state's governor calls a heinous attack. We are following the latest developments. Plus, Albemarle County police are investigating a shooting at this apartment complex. You can see the windows boarded up where bullets struck. Find out what neighbors are telling us they heard. But first tonight, Charlottesville police are searching for a killer as family and friends grieve the loss of a young man who was shot to death early this morning. Police discovered Denzel Morton in a parking lot on Earhart Street. That's just behind the Cavalier Diner off Emmett Street and the 250 bypass. Morton was taken to UVA Medical Center where he died from a gunshot wound. NBC 29's Spencer Burke has the top story details.
Charlottesville police spent Sunday morning searching for evidence along Earhart Street. That's where officers discovered 23-year-old Denzel O. Morton shot in a parking lot in the 400 block just after 3 a.m. Hillary Kerner lives across the street from where Morton was found. She and her son showed up to the scene Sunday hoping to bike a section of the Rivanna Trail not far from where police blocked off the area.
Was obviously distressed. There's a preschool right beside the trail. Where young children during the week are usually playing on the playground right there.
Family members and friends of Morton are taking to social media to remember him. Charlottesville Vice Mayor Wes Bellamy expressed his sorrow, posting photos of Morton, who was also known as Lil Denny. On Instagram, rest in power, Bellamy says. You have always been a smart one, always had a lot of ambition, always was a leader, always respectful. On Twitter, hurts that my little man Denny got killed last night. We need more men to step up and mentor these young kings. On Facebook, Morton's sister posted a collage of photos with the message, rest in peace to my fly lil big bro. The good die young. In Charlottesville, Spencer Burke, NBC 29 HD News.
Police are still investigating and no arrest has been made. If you have any information, detectives urge you to call Crime Stoppers. That number's on your screen. It's 434-977-4000. New tonight at 11, Albemarle County police are releasing details about a shooting that happened this morning in the Barracks West apartment complex. This apartment in the 800 block of Rental Courts boarded up tonight. Police say someone fired shots into that apartment around 5:20 this morning. Neighbors tell NBC 29 they heard at least 5 shots and saw police collect several shell casings from the scene. The apartment was occupied at the time, but no one was injured. If you know anything about this, call Crime Stoppers. There are new details tonight about that deadly attack on police and sheriff's deputies in Louisiana. We now know all 3 of the officers killed were husbands and fathers, one with a son less than a year old. We are also learning the suspect in this shooting was a military veteran. NBC's Jay Gray is in Baton Rouge now with the latest.
Much of East Baton Rouge is still locked down right now following a Sunday morning attack on police.
Shot fired, officer down, shot fired, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fired.
2 Baton Rouge police officers, Montrell Jackson and Matthew Gerald, as well as Sheriff's Deputy Brad Garofolo, were killed. 3 other officers were injured, one that remains in critical condition right now. As fellow officers rushed in to help, the gun battle continued.
We've been advised that the subject may be still shooting. They're advised that they may still be shooting.
That suspect, now identified as 29-year-old Gavin Eugene Long, was shot and killed.
We think the suspect is down. We have him over here. We're going to check him out with a robot before we lighten up on him.
Investigators say Long was armed with a rifle and dressed in black. Police and federal agents are working to determine if others were involved in what the mayor of Baton Rouge has described as an ambush. The killing spree comes 10 days after 5 Dallas police officers were killed by a sniper and less than 2 weeks after the controversial shooting death of Alton Sterling at the hands of Baton Rouge police, throwing the city into the center of protest and the national spotlight. Sterling's aunt has called for an end to the bloodshed.
Because at the end of the day, when these people call these families, and they tell them that their daddies and their mama's not coming home no more, I know how they feel because I got the same phone call. Stop this killing. Stop this killing.
Message that echoes from the White House.
Only we can prove that we have the grace and the character and the common humanity to end this kind of senseless violence.
The family, once again, mourning the loss of those who wear a badge. Jay Gray, NBC News, Baton Rouge.
Albemarle County's police chief posted this message on the department's Facebook page in response to the shootings in Baton Rouge. Chief Ron Lance writes, "This is a difficult time in law enforcement and in our nation, and it requires now more than ever strong community engagement and support." Charlottesville Police Chief Al Thomas echoed those sentiments in a statement tonight, saying, "Now more than ever, we need to stand together as a community, supporting one another in order to get through these difficult times." Tonight, nearly 100 people marched silently through the streets of Waynesboro in a peaceful protest to show both Black and Blue Lives Matter. NBC 29's Nora Noose was there and joins us now in the newsroom with that story. Good evening, Nora.
Good evening, Matt. The key message of the protest was that you don't have to choose between being pro-Black or pro-police, but in reality you can be both. They say that both movements really need some more unity.
I feel like a lot of people feel like you have to be either pro-Black or pro-cops. People don't think you can be both, and that's not true at all.
That message was clear during Sunday night's peaceful protest in downtown Waynesboro. Childhood friends Ariana Carter and Katherine Johnson planned the protest after growing frustrated with how friends were talking about recent violence in Baton Rouge, Minnesota, and then Dallas.
People need to start uniting over this instead of finding things that separate us. We need to start finding things that unite us.
And I feel like a lot of people, since nothing's happened like that here, we have that mindset that, oh, it hasn't happened here. We don't need to care about it. We don't need to do anything about it.
Their one goal with this silent march: unity.
This is not a sides battle. This isn't a one side takes all the fault. We need to come together to this and fix it together.
The Waynesboro Police Department strongly supported the event, not only stopping traffic for the protesters, but also marching alongside them.
In order to be effective, you have to have a relationship. You can't have a relationship if the community doesn't trust you.
Police Sergeant Kelly Walker says his department's leadership is good at teaching about these issues.
Biases are there, and you need to put them aside and follow the law and follow the Constitution.
As protesters circled back to Constitution Park after the march, many were already practicing unity with new friends, creating a stronger community. Many of those protesters didn't know each other before today's rally, but they say afterward they want to become friends and started dialogue moving forward. Live in the newsroom, I'm Nora Noose, NBC 29 News at 11.
Thank you, Nora. To Decision 2016 tonight. Security is in place for the start of the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. Police officers are already patrolling the streets where protesters are demonstrating on behalf of different causes. The city received $50 million from a federal security fund to bring in additional officers and purchase some of that special protective gear you see there. A total of 5,500 officers have been assigned to convention security. That convention starts tomorrow. Inside the convention hall, the stage is set. That's where Donald Trump and Mike Pence are expected to accept their party's nomination. Today, House Speaker Paul Ryan and his wife took a turn on the stage. Ryan told NBC News it looked familiar. You'll remember he was the GOP's vice presidential nominee in 2012. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell right there also did a walkthrough at Quicken Loans Arena. Both are scheduled to speak at the convention this week. One of the speakers at this week's GOP convention will represent Central Virginia. Carrie Woolard is scheduled to speak at the Republican convention to the delegates that are gathered in Cleveland. Woolard is the general manager of Trump Winery in Albemarle County. The winery, of course, is owned by Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and his family. Woolard is one of more than 50 speakers announced for the convention so far, ranging from those members of Congress to celebrities. Business owners in downtown Charlottesville are calling on the city to find more places for people to park. The Downtown Business Association says there are not enough spots for all the patrons, business owners, and employees. The city has said it's in the process of finding a location to build a new parking garage, but that could take 2 to 3 years. In the meantime, the Business Association and the city are looking at what can be done right now to alleviate some of those parking problems.
We're looking at having the Charlottesville area transit system run their free trolley later at night, which would allow employees to be able to park in other areas that are also safe and be able to have transportation up to 2 or 3 in the morning when they get off.
Both groups are also talking about improving lighting in some of the surrounding neighborhoods and asking nearby churches and building owners if they would be willing to open up their parking lots. A weekend film festival just wrapped up tonight in Charlottesville, focusing on the stories of history, education, and social justice in the community. Day 2 of the Maupintown Film Festival opened with a trailer for a new film called Albemarle's Black Classroom, which will officially be released in February. The film tells the story of the small schoolhouses during segregation. That was followed by the documentary Color Line of Scrimmage about the undefeated 1956 Burley High School football team. The festival screened a total of 11 films. Tonight, another American is among the dead in last week's terrorist attack in France, as a Texas community comes together to remember a father and son killed while vacationing in Nice.
And Matt, we had some very warm temperatures across the mid-Atlantic region today. In fact, if you're thinking about your wardrobe tomorrow, I would recommend shorts and maybe Hawaiian shirts, because it's going to be that warm for us again.
Albemarle Legion baseball is in a must-win game against Orange tonight. Wolf Golke has the highlights a little later in sports.